to say, including the priesthood and the consecrated life with being a sister. So those are just the thoughts and feelings that I've been having, and also even just seeing posters and things like that. Like, it just, again, like, just an emphasis on the priesthood. And
so the Lord's been putting it on your heart a little bit to think and reflect about vocations, and sure your own vocation in is the background of everything, but would you want to share a little bit about how you think the Lord might be unfolding in your life a little bit as far as your future is concerned? Do you think, I mean, not that you'd make, not I'm asking you to make any kind of commitment here, but how is the Lord leading and guiding yourself, just a little now?
I think, personally, I think number one is myself. Like, how can I grow as a person? How can I strengthen my weaknesses as a person and really as a woman today in our world? So, and like with society and everything and all, I feel like women have such burdens that we're thrown against every single minute of the day if it's the way that we look. The expectation to say that, we have to get married and have children, like, that's still there, and I feel it and see it sometimes. So, and I think right now, what I feel like I'm being called and led to, and what's really most important and is gaining full independence as a woman, and to be strong, and to, if I'm meant to get married or not, be able to live on my own and be independent and kind of go from there. It's kind of.
I see. Right. Well, you certainly don't want to enter into marriage only for the material support of it. You want to enter into it as a vocation, just as much as the priesthood would be a vocation. In other words, it's not simply that's the only option. It's true. It's true, and when you look back into the past, even into the extreme past of the Bible itself, you find that women found their whole identity in bearing children, because that was the one option they had. Society needed a healthy woman to bear many children, because many children died in early ages. You know what I mean? I mean, just not so long, and then not so long ago, my own grandmother had 13 children. All right, but it was a life of struggle and sorrow. She buried 4 of them. You see what I mean? Only the 9, but then the 9 reached maturity and so forth. You see, so but the opportunities for women are so diverse that it does take up discernment today. But hopefully, with an open heart and open mind, a young man, a young woman will seek the Lord. And if they seek Him, they'll find Him. That's the gospel, you see. That's the value. If you seek the Lord, you absolutely will. He's waiting for you to discover Him. He's not, there's this idea of a hidden God. Yes, God seems hidden. That's in the Bible too. You're truly a hidden God. But God then reveals Himself. Okay, then He comes out of hiding. And then it gets exciting.
Yes, I know that.
Pops out, and he's like, I'm here.
Yes, and from my own personal experience, I know exactly how that is. And I strongly agree, and I know a lot of us feel the same way at Stony Brook, that it is a calling, right? So we ourselves seek the Lord, right? So if we're, I don't feel like God comes right out in the middle of your face, like He's advertising or He's soliciting you to be one way or the other. I don't agree with that. And He's always gentle, and He comes in a gentle, non-scary way, not a forceful way. I believe that if it's a call, like if you're being called to a vocation, it will come to you. And I feel like if you're kind of being pushed to something, then it's not God at all,
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Well, you have it both ways. You have, some parents perhaps in the past encouraged or were overzealous about vocations. Perhaps the greater thing today is that parents never talk about it. If parents had many children, it was easier for them to say, well, maybe one of them will be a priest or a sister. But if they have only 1 or 2 children themselves, it's harder. psychologically and emotionally to say that. So today, you know, it's underplayed in a lot of instances. But on the other hand, you know, God is working in the situation today also. It's stirring up the hearts of people. If you have a vocation, there's going to be something very attractive about it.
Exactly.
Even if it's a life of sacrifice, there's going to be some things about it that's getting you excited, for sure.
And
God,
I'm sorry, I was going to say just also that you understand and you at least you know the reason why you're going to a certain location. Instead of going into a certain vocation and be like, I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. That means you still need time to discern and understand and grow.
Yeah, I was just thinking they have a lot of retreats and spiritual, certain convents have retreats that you're able to sleep over if a woman is discerning the religious life or married life. Men, there's the seminary for men, but I'm sure that there's retreats along the way as well, at your local college or the Newman Club. I know that they usually have a winter and a spring retreat, and there's actually a spring retreat coming up as well. So, there's those avenues as well to start, thinking and discerning, and as time develops, then it's kind of more solidified, if the person is open to the Lord's direction and where he or she will be truly happy, then it'll reveal itself in time.
Exactly. And being, within a community, if it's for myself, being in the Newman Club, right? I can say personally from my whole transformation story, the idea of becoming a sister actually popped in my head because of the love of God that I found, God's love, and then seeing that and feeling that within the Newman Club and being totally accepting of who I am and I am enough. So it's the people that you are with, you can start discerning that way and, start thinking, and you're not making a commitment at all. It's just okay, I'm aware of this feeling, but I don't think, somebody, at least for a young adult, I don't know, it's a bit intimidating and uncomfortable if you had, a priest tell you, oh, if you're a guy, you should become a priest, or maybe you should think about that. I don't think that should be right. The person should come to that on their own. I know on Stony Brook, and we're the only college, university on Long Island that has small groups, and we actually had, new members come in that way because it is that peer interaction, and that's how you want to bring people in that way. It's when it's one-on-one with somebody who is your peer, because you can feel comfortable that way.
That's right.
But to have somebody who's a lot older than you, even if it's a sister or a priest, it'd be God loves you. If somebody came up to me like that before in my past, it'd be okay, I'm gonna walk away right now.
I'm clearing out. Okay.
Exactly. So
I see it the other way too, the opposite way, in the sense, I see your point. Of course, it can be a little intimidating if you don't really know the person, or
or you don't know the faith at all,
or if you don't know the faith at all. Yeah. I'm just thinking that older religious, they're in my life, I've met some really great people, and they've really just invited me, or it was their way of showing their love, and just to think about it, or just to be open to that possibility. So maybe the person can come off pushy sometimes, but they really mean the best, or they want you to consider that option, that if the young person has never thought about it before, or I guess society really, it's never really mentioned, other than in old movies or stuff like that. So I kind of see the good in it too, but I understand what you're saying, that it could be,
it's not, and that's kind of what I've been seeing and hearing. It's pushiness is not the way to go, because that's not God. God comes in a gentle, caring way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, God, God knows what our hearts can handle, And with St. Paul, I guess God was a little rough, and knocking him down and blinding him and so forth. He's a headstrong man, but with a strong ego and a strong superego too. You see what I mean? So, another person had an experience of God like that. It might take him 5 years to recover. You know what I mean? And maybe they would be tiptoeing through the tulips even after that. But generally, God knows He tries to put people in our lives that sometimes people don't respond to that, but He puts people in our lives. And many of the religious orders, the folks who founded them were friends. I think the classic example is the Jesuits themselves. Ignatius and Xavier and the other ones that were there were friends studying theology at the University of Paris, not sure what God wanted of them, but it was their actual friendship and their acquaintanceship with each other that was part of the glue that held them together and got them to stick with Ignatius as he finally figured out how God wanted him to set up the Jesuits. So it's a friendship thing. Francis thought he was going to be a hermit for a while because nobody would follow his radical life. He was so happy, when Bernard of Quintavalle came along, and then the other ones, Leo and Sylvester and all. He says, then God gave me brothers, and it's a wonderful thing because he wanted his order to be, a bunch of brothers. And of course, there's a hot potato was thrown in when Claire showed up, because she couldn't be a brother. How could we make this work? But it worked. He had to put her in a contemplative convent, but she led the life that Francis wanted her to lead, and that she felt she wanted to lead in the context of those times. So, personal relationships are important in the lives of the saints too, but they use them for good.
We were just mentioning St. Francis last night.
Yes.
Father, it was so funny because I called Megan and I was thinking is there any saints that we could mention to our listeners, that fit into our topic, and we thought of St. Francis and St. Clare, and
right.
Just that, how also the priesthood and the religious life, consecrated women, work together to build the church and help those who are married, help the church in general. It's a beautiful thing, and how we could get in now to married life, and how the married life, the couple bring up children to a strong Christian faith to help the church and to do good. Right, Father? Would
That's
you
right.
kind of?
Well, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Marriage is every bit as much a vocation and a calling, as would be religious life or the priesthood. And what does it say? And there's that famous and wonderful line about marriage. It sums up so many things about marriage. And therefore, a man must leave his father's home. And in the context of the Bible, the emphasis has to be on the man, because the men were in charge of the public order. But the same spiritual truth applies to him. Therefore, a young woman must leave her mother's circle, let's say, and cling to her husband, or in the way the Bible has, cling to his wife, and the two of them become one flesh. Okay, so we won't discuss the one part of it, but leaving your father's home means you have an interior calling to do something new, to establish something new, something distinct from your parents' home. You're not simply going to be getting all your identity from your parents. God is calling you and blessing this new thing you are doing, a new establishment, your family. And the Bible has that. The most amazing thing about it is the Bible emphasizes the choice of the individual young person at a time when most marriages were arranged. I mean, remember that. I mean, in all traditional societies, the parents had a tremendous influence. Of course, girls were married young. Boys were married young too, 18, 19 for a boy, 16, 14, 15, 16 for a girl. And of course, then they would be protected by their parents for a while, and then they would eventually get out on their own. But the fact that the Bible emphasizes the individuality and the individual choice and the individual risk leaving your parents' home is amazing. And it's a wonderful spiritual insight. It shows that it is a vocation. It's not simply a social arrangement to continue society. It's a call from God and a bonding of the two persons in an amazing relationship.
That's really interesting that you mentioned that emphasis on individuality, even though they were arranged. So you could think to yourself, oh, how can this be, you know, something
real love.
individual
Right.
and something personal for me and, you know, and the spouse. But it is, I guess, you know, the Lord is blessing and calling them to be together and,
right,
and
that's
to, like you said, the new life, a new life in Christ.
That's right.
That's just, it reminded me from the scripture when it says the old things have passed away and behold the new is coming. So
That's right. So you see in the Bible, you see how, you know, Jacob, the young Jacob, has to go, you know, work for his, you know, his in-law Laban, you know, so that he can win a wife. But he can't, you know, the idea is choosing a wife among your more distant cousins. You see, that's the thing. So that would be something that would have been prevalent in patriarchal times, in the old times of the Bible. You know, you know, in today, some of you know, folks from India, the girl might have come to this, might have spent most of her time in the States, might get a PhD from an American university. But what do her parents want? They want her to go back to the village in India and find somebody there. You know, that's what they, you know, go back.
Yes.
We know we can send you back to the village and look around and talk to these people and find out. So you see, it's semi-arranged even today. So it's important for us to see that it is a vocation under God, a great calling.
Yes, I agree, and especially for being a young adult and still in college, I think it's just we should be know that all vocations do matter,
Yes.
and that each vocation we should be able to talk about it, especially from people who are a lot older than us,
That's
like
right.
as guys and mentor,
Sure.
Guidance and mentoring in that sense, and especially I think right now, especially for young adults, we should be able to, right now, how do we become our own person? Because I feel like before you ever do get married, I think you're better off knowing who you are.
You're better off knowing who you are. That's true. That's true. Rather than you have an identity before you have a bonding with another person. That's why we shouldn't encourage teenagers to be chaste, because they haven't really fully discovered themselves. Now they're going to be bonding with another person, and it's premature. They need to be able to stand a bit on their own 2 feet first. And then on the young adult level, of course, you have to have. You're not simply entering into a union with a man out of desperation. That there's no other choice. No, that it must be a free giving of yourself to one another, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
thanks, Caterina.
sorry, we just had to adjust the mic, but no, yeah, definitely free gift of self, right?
Yeah.
That's a big part of also St. John Paul II's theology of the body.
Theology of the body, that's a big thing there.
That's a
Yes,
big
it
thing
is.
too.
It's a big deal, a big deal. It helps you understand the foundations of marriage and so forth as God wanted it to be.
yeah. I mean, also too, like if there is such a focus, like again, for young adults and especially for young men, emphasis on the priesthood, it's like, well, if every single guy becomes a priest,
Right,
what
right,
about
right.
for the women who want to
Right.
become vocations
That-
into marriage?
Absolutely.
It's just for young adults, what the focus and emphasis should be on is just like how to grow and become good people, men and women.
Well, Pope John Paul II was always looking around for married couples to canonize. And of course, they started out with the process for St. Therese of Lisieux's parents, all right, the Martins. And, they were a wonderful faith-filled couple. And, of course, they had the idea that they would live celibately within marriage. And so they sought the advice, St. Therese's parents sought the advice of a famous spiritual director in France. And, of course, actually, as a matter of fact, I'm sure it was by the inspiration the Lord led him to tell him that, celibacy was not their vocation if they were married, but that they were called to procreate. So, of course, they did. And, of course, I think it was 5 of them went into the convent. 5 of their kids went into the convent.
That's so funny.
Including, so the vocation to virginity came in the children, not for them. But now they had their struggles. They had Louis and Zélie were their names. And Zélie died somewhat early when Therese was still very young. And of course, Louis had his own difficulties with depression and other mental issues later on. But they were generous in their response to the Lord and raised a wonderful family. And of course, one of the highlights, if you do go to Lisieux today, is to visit the family home, the girlhood home of St. Therese, and get a little bit of a glimpse of the kind of life they lived at that time in the 19th century. But John Paul was a theme of John Paul. Let's find married saints. And a little tricky because sometimes the documentation is not there the way it might have been about a person who founded a religious order. But it was a noble goal that he had, and he found some good ones, especially the Martins. So that even though the conditions of life are very different today, still, I mean, Saint Therese in her own way is a feminist, okay, because she insists that she can live heroic sanctity. You know what I mean? She can do it. Like even Clare of Assisi was a feminist in the sense that she said women can live the Franciscan rule. Mm-hmm. Everybody said, you can't live like Francis. I mean, he went hand to mouth. He slept outside. He if there was nobody gave him food, he fasted that day. You women are more delicate. You need and Clare kept insisting we could live the rule. And it was not easy in the early days. All right, mm-hmm. for her to convince people of that, but she did, and she is a genuine force in the early religious life of the Franciscan community, a genuine force for good, keeping people on track and so forth. So, anyway, I'm sure you folks have a couple of other ideas you want to share.
I just wanted to jump off of that and say that those women were definitely breaking the societal expectations and living holy lives, right. And truly being strong, but in the holy sense, and being a role model for others in the Christian sense. So thanks for reminding us about that. And I know we're talking about marriage and vocations, and I was reading this article, and it's really great, and I wanted to just mention it briefly because it fits in really well with marriage and just the virtues of a Christian family. And we were talking about saints, married saints, and it says here, the article is "The Love Story God Intended" by Dr. Mitchell Kalkin, and he writes, the book entitled "The Journey of Our Love," a collection of the letters of Saint Gianna Beretta and her husband Pietro Molla, offers a paradigm of a romantic love story, an example of sacramental love, and a model of family life that offer the restoration of understanding, of traditional virtues to an age that has lost the most fundamental understanding of the nature of human love, the noble vocation of marriage, and the riches of family life. And essentially what is said is that in 1954, a young physician of 33 and an engineer who was 42 accidentally met for a third time at a dinner where they were seated across from each other, which they thought was a coincidence, but it was, God had intended for their paths to cross. And then it says, to paraphrase G.K. Chesterton, the more coincidental things appear, the less coincidental they are. Love begins in the wonder of another person's beauty and the goodness that comes as a heavenly gift. And then after this meeting, their courtship began, and Pietro proposed next year, the following year in February, and their formal engagement was in April. And then pretty much the story highlights that they would write back and forth letters to each other. And it says in the engagement letters, they express all the natural sentiments of a heart truly in love and what the Lord, they were a couple truly for the Lord. And Jana writes, now there is you whom I already love and to whom I intend to give myself to form a truly Christian family. And then Pietro writes in response to her, a new life is beginning for me, the life of your great and greatly desired affection and of your radiant goodness. I could not have received a better gift and grace from our Heavenly Mother. And so just really, really beautiful how they are thanking God for the gift of one another and how they want to give each other in love, and you know, I just thought that fit in really well. Kind of,
Beautiful, beautiful.
you know, emphasizing what we already said. But
So what would you rather have, $20 million or a happy marriage? A happy marriage is worth $200 million.
Yeah, is worth so much more money, because money could only bring you so far, right? You know.
Money can do a lot. It can solve your problems. It can get you out of a jam. It can give you a special time, but it can't bring happiness in the deepest sense. That's the thing. And a marriage can do that, or will do that, if you both are living it.
Mm-hmm. You were mentioning before, Megan, about dramatic missionary growth and how you feel. I know we're going back to vocations, and let's talk about that idea a little bit. And you know, dramatic missionary growth. What does that mean? And
exactly. I don't think it's totally defined as to what that means. I mean, Father, what do you have to say? What do you think that means?
Every time Bishop Barris speaks, he gives us a little more of the meaning of that. That's his favorite phrase, because he wants to put a positive spin on our efforts. He doesn't want us to have the idea that we're fighting a losing battle, but to hang in there anyway. It's that there's the potential with God's grace is a powerful, powerful thing, the most powerful force in the universe, what's going on is the harvest is great, but the laborers are few. So pray the Lord send laborers into his harvest. Not only priests and religious, but dedicated lay people too, who could be fabulous role models for young people. Say that send them let them get involved. It's not easy. It's I think of some young parents who have liked to get, who would have wanted to get involved even more deeply. They're torn. They say, how could I devote myself to my profession, to my spouse, to my children, and then still find time for the church? After I've given myself to those things, fully. So, but in the Lord you can.
Exactly.
In the Lord you can. So you can find out how, God's the Lord of time too, and he can make things happen in 5 minutes that would take hours. You know what I mean? When you really come down to it. So we have to trust the Lord in that kind of thing. How does the Lord work with our time? We have to trust him with our time also.
That's a big one for me. Thanks, Father, because I was thinking about that. You want to do good, and you want to do these things, but it's just like, how do you fit it in? And and like you said, that God makes it. You just need a little bit. He comes in with that little bit that you give.
That's right.
So thank you for that.
Sure.
And what do you, dramatic missionary growth, what does that mean for you, Megan? I think of the Bible a little bit when Jesus says, before he's ascended into heaven, right? And he sends his disciples forth. Go therefore and baptize in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. He sends them out on mission.
That's right.
Now that the Lord is going back to the Father, that's right. After the resurrection, after Easter.
This is the ascension.
The ascension. So he calls us, that we're here on earth, we're God's hands and feet to go out and to serve and to be missionaries and to. So that's kind of like what I thought, and I thought that you'll be a missionary soon because you're going on the spring retreat. Tell us a little bit about where you'll be going and what.
You mean the spring mission trip?
Yes, mission trip. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So this year for the spring mission trip, we're going to West Virginia, and we're working through the Appalachia Service Project, where we'll be doing home repair, home rebuilding. So this will be my second mission trip.
Mm-hmm.
And
are you excited? Are you nervous? How do you? I know you were telling me some of your. Do you want to? Not that's okay, but.
Well, I get mixed feelings.
But then you were brave enough to talk to our congregation, right?
Yeah.
Tell everybody about that. Getting ready to give that talk. How was that? How did you experience that talk?
Oh, it was amazing. I fundraise at St. Francis in Green Lawn, and for the trip. And
you did?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I
at
went
the coffee house, or
no, at the Sunday 5 p.m. mass.
Oh, nice.
And the whole entire time I wasn't totally focusing. I was more like, God, just help me find the words to
Uh-huh.
speak. And when I got out there, of course, I was, still nervous, but I actually felt him right behind me and able to speak clearly and what I needed
And the
to
people
say.
were reasonably generous.
Oh
weren't
yeah,
they?
I was amazed with how much
when some of the people
collected.
see a young person up there, I mean, they might hear me and they might put $5 in the basket. Okay, when they hear a young person, they put a 20. You see, because they know how important young people are to the church. They feel it about their own kids and grandkids, and and many of them want to support anything that young people are excited about.
Yeah.
It's hard to say no to kids, like if you're, your mom or dad or, uncle, you just want to give to the kids, it's just hard to say no. So that's great. So you fundraised and all the proceeds are now going to
Yeah,
to
we
help
actually
this.
raised enough money this year that I think last year we didn't have to pay, but this year we don't have to pay anything. We had to put in a deposit in, and that's all we needed to pay. So
Oh,
that was
nice.
really cool and really nice. And
Great.
Oh, wonderful. And that's that's kind of, if we think about what's going on here on the East Coast, there in other parts of the state and other parts of the country, they do experience things, that do need our support. And that's really great that you're living this out and you're being a missionary with, other students.
there's 13 of us going this year.
13. Okay, nice.
That's a nice sized group. You'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's a week,
and
right?
The kids of
It's
our
a-
youth
yeah.
group go to Kentucky, and they have a lot of fun. So it's
Kentucky.
amazing how the kids come back. You think they practically grew up in Kentucky the way they talk about the experience and so forth.
Do they come back
Do
with
the
accents?
I was just gonna say the accent.
They come
a
back
little
excited.
Bit.
They come back excited about it. Yeah, they come back excited. It's nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, like when I said mixed feelings, it's like, of course, you're always nervous. I mean,
New
I'm nervous.
place,
New
yeah.
place. You don't know what to expect. I, like last year when we went to Cincinnati, we were right over the border in Kentucky, so we just did 1 day of home repair. Now I'm doing 6 days of home repair. So I'm like, am I gonna make it through 6 days?
You're gonna get some big muscles by the time you come.
Exactly. So I'm like, again, God, you can do
Get
all
a pair of
things.
work gloves. That's
Yes.
it. Get a pair of work gloves.
So.
That's amazing. I'm sure God will bless you in so many ways that you'll just. There's so many pleasant surprises, when you go on trips like this that you don't know what to expect. You don't know who you're gonna meet.
Yeah, that's my favorite part.
Yes.
Is like really meeting the people in the end of, because that's what makes the whole experience. And for me, last year when I went to Cincinnati, it was really the people. It's not so much what I did. It's just like, it was really the people
Being
that you
there
met.
with them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah, definitely.
There's such amazing personalities, right? Even folks who have very little, sometimes they're rich in personality.
Exactly.
And they're rich in a sense of God's presence in their lives, even though they have many difficulties.
I want to make a shout out also my sister, Serena, who goes away. She's in Catholic University of America. Her spring break is this week as well. And she's actually right now in Miami, about to take a plane to Jamaica on her school mission trip
Oh, wow.
to help the people there. Yeah, and she's very excited. And, we just keep everyone in prayer who's going on mission trip. You could even be, like, Father, you were mentioning about St. Therese of Lisieux, missionary every day in the very simple everyday life, just being there for one another.
Exactly.
And, I just wanted to mention her as well and the great work that we're all doing to help the Lord and His people. And I think she's going to be there for a week with her fellow students as well. And it's a great way to get together as young people and do what we can within the sphere. And, school is a great way. You're spending time, you're learning, you're doing that. As working people, you find it, I guess, through the church, through your local churches, and how you could help with parish outreach is another way.
The Midnight Run is a nice thing for teenagers to be involved in. That's an organized setup. It's not simply, a bunch of kids looking for homeless people in the city. It's structured in a way that, that the young people or the teenagers can actually physically meet and greet some of the folks who are homeless, and physically and directly give them a blanket, give them some gloves, a pullover hat, give them some food, even a coat or sneakers or something like of that type. The Midnight Run is a wonderful thing. Of course, our teen group has participated in it a number of times, and it's a high point for the year. They go more than once, but they're high points always, and there are other things, but really it's the kind of thing kids don't easily forget, and it makes the gospel real to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely something great to experience for sure, and just seeing and helping those in need, that they come to those specific locations, and you give out food to them and it's cold, and in the winter, and give them food and something hot to drink. It really could,
It makes a difference.
Makes a difference. You give me something hot and something to eat, I'd love it. It's always welcome.
And of course, the kids are looking to us. Help us do something for God. That's what they think. They get tired of being talked to. I mean, being talked to is important, but on the other hand, they want to feel that they're grown up enough to do something for God, but they know they need support from the adult community.
Exactly.
So that's it. Get me to the Midnight Run,
Yeah, take me,
Take me to the midnight
because they
run.
can't drive, or, yeah, exactly. So can we also, I guess, just discuss a little bit about Lent, Father, and just how we can continue to prepare and have, through prayer, and just some suggestions that you have for us?
Well, the readings of the Lenten Masses are really a spectacular selection. I mean, there couldn't be anything, even if you can't get to daily Mass, to have a source where you have the readings. You have the readings given to you, so you can check things out. This week we had the story of Lazarus, not the raising of Lazarus, but Lazarus, the poor man, the beggar, who was at the door of at the gate of the rich man's house, and it says, he's obviously sick and poor, and it says that even the dogs licked his sores. So it was the poor man was suffering from various ailments, and God help us to figure out what they actually were. But and it doesn't say that the rich man was evil. It just all you can imply from the story is that he was neglectful of the poor man at his at his door, and so Lazarus gets to be taken to the bosom of Abraham. That's an image of heaven, whereas the rich man is in the place of torment. You see, and we're meant to identify with that. And then the idea is, let's not be complacent. Let's not say, look at all the things I'm doing. Let's just say, well, what is the Lord really calling me to do now? You see, what is keep me on my toes, Lord. Don't let me get complacent. Don't let me get like that Pharisee who went into prayer, and his prayer was basically boasting about what a good guy he was and what scum was all around him, and God didn't want to hear that prayer.
He went to the mountain and it was saying,
God didn't want to hear that prayer. God wanted to hear the prayer of the tax collector, who probably, in all probability, had cheated people, but now at a certain point is coming to repentance.
And he was really sorry for what
he had done. And so all of these famous readings are given to us during the Lent. The Church really gives us a wallop. It was 2 jabs, 2 left jabs, and then a roundhouse right. I mean, we're meant to be knocked backward a little bit as we hear the Lenten readings at the Masses and say, my gosh, is the Lord talking about me? Is the Lord talking about me?
Is that me sometimes,
And we have the Joseph story. Joseph is
That was yesterday, right?
That's right, the Joseph story. And Joseph is a type of Christ. That's how Christians read the Old Testament. They look for hints of how Christ will, his mission and destiny, and the purpose of his life. So Joseph is sold into slavery. Okay, Jesus is betrayed and rejected. You see what I mean? But Joseph becomes their redeemer and deliverer. And as he rises to power in Egypt and is able to help all of the ones who wished him evil. Okay, so you see, that's like with Jesus, okay?
I never made that connection.
You know,
Thank
we
you.
put Jesus on the cross, but
Uh-huh.
after the resurrection, he's the means, he's the way to salvation. You see what I mean? So that's so you can't do better than get a little soak up those Lenten readings. Let me just leave it at that for now.
Yeah. No, thanks, Father. That's really great. There's a lot of little hints in there. You know what we were discussing about helping others, reaching out. You know, not being complacent, spending some time in prayer, going to confession, and just, you know, releasing to God things that we know we've done wrong, but we want to do better. So with God's help, just help me to be better. And
Be a better person.
so, you know, those are great little hints, for sure. So Megan, can you mention to us? I know you have a blog going on, and that's really exciting.
I do.
So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, what is this blog? Tell me
Yeah,
about,
what is a
tell us
blog?
about this.
For those who don't know, what is what do you do? Like how can we? What is it? I guess.
A blog. Well, my definition of a blog is, I guess, it's really, I mean, it's a writing, like an avenue for writing for a person,
And for others to read
and
your
others
ideas.
to, other people to read not my ideas, but others' ideas. For my blog, I'm calling it, the title is I Am. Right now, since I just got it up and running and now recently announcing it, that right now it's just really talking about my personal journey of starting college and my personal aspirations to my whole faith transformation and journey as well, and just really eventually also want to start building a community as well where other people can share their own narratives, because I feel like a lot of us share the same narrative. And also that, like, with the title I Am, it's kind of like when you do look at the blog or you read the blog, it's like looking at yourself in your own mirror. I am,
Your name.
your name, no, I mean, not your name, but just saying, like, I am confident, I am self-sufficient, I am beautiful, I am strong, I am unsure, I mean, my latest post that I posted a couple days ago is I am in an unfamiliar place. Of course, we've all been in some type of unfamiliar place. So that's kind of what my aim and goal is for my readers to say, look at themselves in the mirror and bring, share that positivity and strengthen them. And
So they can respond to this. You put
Oh,
it,
yes.
the idea of putting it up is so that it provokes a response.
yes.
Okay.
So you could write and say, like if I read something and I could write to you, oh, I could relate to that.
Yeah.
This is something that happened to me, and then I write something. It also has Christian roots too, like
Yes.
God calls himself I Am,
Yes.
with Moses and the burning bush, and
Yes. So that's, I kind of like, yes, so it has a Christian root for those, because I don't want it to deter those who are not Christian.
it's for everyone.
It really is for everyone, even though, so yes, for those who are Christian and picked up that root, yes, that's where I also got that from.
Sure.
And
Now, can you control it? In other words, if somebody puts something there that seems to be a little extraneous or off the point, can you delete that? Or
yes, nothing has happened so far. I know I have complete control as to what can be viewed and what cannot be viewed. When people, if anybody is interested in, my blog, you can go to www.Megan, Megan Cahill, Cahill, Assenza, ASSENZA.com, and you can subscribe. So I guess you would get emails of my latest posts.
Great, that's spectacular.
That's a great thing in the works for you, and you're an aspiring journalist too, and it's a great way to, promote everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So again, like with everything I spoke about vocations, I haven't posted anything about that yet, but I can post my thoughts and opinions about that, and eventually the mission trip too. Yeah,
I'm sure you want to
experience
get that
about
in
that.
there.
No,
Sure.
exactly.
Sure, you'll want to get that in there.
So
That's terrific. That's,
yeah.
Yeah, so that, like I say, you're thinking about journalism, so here's a way of kind of forcing yourself to get something on paper, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And to take your stand and then so forth, and to put a good article together, that's so you're really looking to the future, but you're also doing a service to people right now and getting them to be self-reflective and self-aware and all of that.
So it's a service to people, and it's also a blog. Like, she could look it's also a history. It's a log of history too. She could read from a year from now where she was in her life and just the things she was writing personally, but also the different people that she helped, and just help you to grow in your career path as a journalist too, because then you could think, oh, okay, how can I improve, or that was really great, I want to try to keep doing this, maybe it was like a certain writing style, or just, it's really great. And I just was thinking too about journaling as well. Like, I just want to encourage our listeners, like, if you don't have a journal, or you used to journal, it's a great tool to just write in like a little journal things that inspire you. It doesn't have to be long, or if you're in adoration, or if you're in church and you're at Mass and you find yourself distracted, as we always do, it's great. Like, let's say you're in Sunday Mass and you start thinking about, oh, what I'm gonna, cook for dinner, and you want to kind of get focused. You write in your journal like something the priest said. It's just really helpful. Or, even if your thoughts do wander, that's okay. You're with the Lord, so that's okay. But yeah, I would definitely encourage writing is really a great tool. And so with that, I just wanted to wrap up our show today and say thank you so much to our guests for coming, Megan and Father Peter, always.
Absolutely. God
Thank
bless.
you for allowing me to speak.
Oh, no problem.
Another wonderful opportunity, and now in a new location.
In a new location, that's right. Yep. And we just always pray for you listeners. Please keep us in prayer. If you wanted to share anything, feel free to reach out to us. You could text or call. My text or call number is 516-784-6081. Have a great weekend. God bless you, and tune in next time. Thank you.